Hello and welcome to the project folder template demonstration. The purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to create an organized project folder and to also sync it with your Google Drive. So when you work, it's very important, especially with digital files, and more that's the way things are going. It's very important that you have a very clean organizational structure so that you can find your work. So the first thing that we're going to do is to create a template folder, and what I like to do is use this. I'll create this once, and then every time I create a new project, I'll just copy this folder over and then I'll just rename it. So we're going to create this template folder. So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm on a Mac, but the same thing would pertain to a PC as well. And I'm just going to call this project folder template. Okay. Now I'm going to go into this, and there's a typical family of software that we will use. So I like to start off with that. So I'll say new folder. I know that I want to have Photoshop. I know that I'm definitely going to use some AutoCAD. I know that I will use SketchUp. I know that I will use Layout. And I know that I might use Illustrator. Now that I have those base programs, what I also want to do is create other folders, and I'm going to put a prefix of 00 in front of these, and I'm going to call this one Finished Pieces, and another one, new folder, I'm going to do a 00, Site Imagery. Okay, so now you have your parent folders created. We're going to go in here and create subfolders inside of these. So I'm going to go into my SketchUp, and in SketchUp I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to call this first one components. And I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this textures. And I'll create a new folder, and I'll cap lock this one and call it archive. So within SketchUp you have archive, components, and textures, and the models will just allow to float inside of here. Okay, the current model that we're working on, the current models that we might be working on. And if you need to add additional folders to these things, you can. This is just a core template to work from. So that's SketchUp. In Photoshop, we're going to just add an archive folder to this. Archive, and I'm going to go into layout, and just the same thing, new folder for layout. It'll just be archive. We won't have so many that will get lost in layouts, but we'll keep an archive for that. Illustrator, I'm going to do the same thing, just call it an archive. Now, the site imagery, I'm just going to leave that alone. We won't have an archive for that. We'll just allow it to be what it's going to be. Now, within finished pieces, typically, what I like to do, let me just double click in here, are create folders that are typical of the deliverables that we produce. So, typically, you will see plan view diagrams. Plan view diagrams. I'll do another one for perspectives. I'll do a new folder. I'll call this one sections and elevations. And I'll do another folder, and I will call this infographics. So I'll put a prefix in front of this, and then I'll call it presentation boards, and that'll be the last piece that we kind of comprise all these things together. They'll be in presentation boards, and that way we want to look at separate pieces or have a complete board. We'll be able to go navigate to our finished pieces and go directly to it rather than kind of searching, because we can generate several of these. I like keeping this just because it helps keep things neat and organized. Alright, so now you have a project folder template. So what I would do is, when you start a project, I would just copy this folder over like I just did, and then change the name of it. And what I like to do is put a prefix in front of it. a numeric prefix. So say you're just starting this, and maybe it's 01 is your prefix. And then I'll give it the whatever the project name is that I'm working on. So whatever it is, test project. Okay. And then you're ready to go. So when you begin working, you already have a file structure waiting for you, and then it becomes consistent. All right, so now that you have a folder here, you can use this on your desktop. What I recommend, and you could work off your desktop, and theoretically now on the computers here at school, wherever you log into, everything should populate on the desktop, so you can create your project folders on your desktop. But what I would recommend, highly recommend, is that you also back up your folders onto a Google Drive. So you have Google Drive space that's been given to you with your Aggie account. And what you want to do is upload these folders. So I'm in my account. If you don't see it, you can kind of go into your Gmail and click on this icon and click on Drive. It'll bring you to your Drive, and it's the same thing. You create organizational structures, and you see that I have my classes and library and freelance, all these things here. So it makes it easier for me to get to the things that I need. So once you have this and you have your folder, you can actually upload. So upload folder and navigate to my desktop, and then I would just simply click on the project folder and say upload. Now, the reason why we use this on cloud computing storage, cloud storage, is because it allows us to access our folders anywhere. It's not just relegated to the desktop that you're working on. You can, as long as you have access to internet, you can access your files. On your own personal computers, you can actually download a Dropbox or Google Drive utility, and it creates a folder on your hard drive. So you can just save everything to that, and it automatically kicks to your cloud storage device. It'll sync, and that's what I use personally. And I highly recommend that because you don't have to worry about losing thumb drives or whatever. It's just always there. So I would highly recommend you using a backup utility. But for the projects in this class, you need to create a project folder or copy what I've created here, because this is what I'll be working off of. And if you make any modifications along the way, that's fine, but I want us all to start from the same point. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, send me an email at ncatlandark@gmail.com, or come by the office and see me.